Hello and welcome to this week's video on My Hero Academia. This week I'm reviewing episode 4 of volume 4 of Vigilantes. You know how this works by now. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below, and you will be around it in next week's show. Whilst you're there, be to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It will do them a power of good. And my next subscriber target is to reach 105 subscribers. If I break that target, then I'll do a review of the second My Hero Academia movie. It's the only one that I haven't done thus far, so we'll see how we get with that. There's no time limit on this, let's just get to it when we get to it. But between then and now, we get on to the review, and we start off, as we always do with these reviews, by talking about the positives. And the headline positives for this video: wow, we're really getting into the action. The silly, fun time, goofy stuff is being put to one side a little bit for more serious and dramatic action. There are, of course, still some great gags, some visual gags, and some well-written gags here and there, but that's just how it is right now. We're very much into all action time, even if it feels as though the action kind of just stops at the end of the episode, but we'll discuss that shortly. I'm going to be honest, I think this might be another short review from me. This isn't because there isn't much to talk about, but because the episode itself feels rather short. Or at least it's paced in such a way that it kind of rushes by, with the big meat of the episode being towards the end of it, which is what we're going to discuss in the second half of this part of the review. And of course, this review might be shorter because I want to spend time working on the big Christmas video for this year. We're bringing some at the back, though I think you can guess what it is. Well, that said, back to the movie itself, and before we shift into the heavier meat of this episode, the more dramatic and serious stuff, I think it's a good time to talk about the humour of this episode. And spoilers, I liked pretty much every single joke in the episode once again. You know, we start off with something a little bit lighter. We have the little opening gag about the lounge singer taking a really long time to finish singing. Then we have the visual gag of the indie rocker guy not looking too happy with his new costume, even though his new costume is just the old one, but now he has a feather in his hat. It's just a little thing in the background, this glum expression on his face. Everyone else looks really happy and excited to be there. All the rest of the people in his band look really hyped up. All the dancers and stuff look really happy. And there's him with a face like a bulldog licking piss off a thistle. Just this look of, don't you know what you've done to me? This costume's part of who I am. It's an expression of my identity and who I am. I'm not no silly. I don't need no feather in my hat. The feather is within me. You're taking something that's within me and putting it on me without of me. Don't you understand the art? Or something along those lines. But you get the idea. He doesn't look too happy at the whole entire thing. And of course, probably my favourite gag in the episode, but a short one. It's with Crawler being again a bit of an oblivious little twerp. Over the past few episodes, we've had this running gag of the choreographer and the indie rocker guy slowly falling in love, and it's being played off as a will they, won't they kind of thing, as a little bit of a parody of all that kind of stuff. And in this episode, we see her that she's gone even a step beyond. Over the past couple episodes, she's been changing her appearance to try and fit what she thinks the indie rocker guy would like, you know. She's been cutting her hair, she's not wearing her glasses now, and this all culminates with Crawler saying, just goes to show that anyone can look good if they just put the effort in. All words to that effect. And in that moment, he's less Mr. Nice Guy and more Mr. Bellend. I mean, just saying something like that is just like saying to someone, oh, it's nice to see you've had a wash. Still, it's him being oblivious, and he kind of gets punished for it. It's a fun little bit, and now we pivot into the more serious stuff, which is, of course, talking about the drama of the episode, which I think did well for what it was, though I do think it needed a little bit something more, but that something more might well come in the next couple episodes or so, as this whole arc, this whole mini-sequence starts to get rounded off. The big thing at the moment, as far as Popstep is concerned, is that her anxiety is now running at boiling point, at total fever pitch. Reading this opening half of the episode, we don't know what's going to happen with her. Is she going to run? Is she going to screw it up? Is she just going to go out and do good? Is she going to be mediocre? We really don't know. And the truth is, we might never know because of the whole villain attack thing. The gig for the time being is over, or at least on a bit of an extended pause. Which is a bit of a disappointing thing, because I was expecting this to slightly build up and build up and build up, and then maybe the monster attack would happen during the gig itself, but we've not got that. So this is making me think that maybe she will end up fighting the monster, and that the monster fight itself will act as something of a metaphor for her fighting her anxieties around performing and being a vigilante. I think that would be neat. That would be great. I will admit that saying this does kind of feel like a this is how I would have done it thing, which always makes me feel uncomfortable when I hear critics and reviewers and that kind of thing in broadcasting. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. That it's kind of thing it feels like it's setting up for. So this isn't me suggesting what they should do. This is just me speculating what they will do. Though there is, again, a part of me that's worried that won't happen now. I have this fear that she'll just end up being used as bait at best, or as worst, a damsel in distress. I've got this nasty feeling that the big person that's going to save all of this is either going to be Crawler, Knuckleduster, or Eraserhead. And that Pop Step's just going to be there. Either to then set up that she'll do a big saving thing later down the road, or she'll just kind of be there to be the damsel in distress. Or alternatively, just won't meet the big monster at all. And there's a part of me that, no, they wouldn't skip this, would they? Like, I know that the big emotional core for this episode is the stuff with Bee and Knuckleduster, but they wouldn't skip out on this whole plot thread and not round it off. Like, is that all they're going to do to round this off, being Popstep doing the gig and singing? Something that's really not going to translate that well in a manga format? I hope not, because it feels as though they're setting up for something potentially rather cool and also sweet in a way, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Of course, another thing that I should point out, as I just mentioned, Eraserhead is back! I worry that this is going to be the big thing that people are going to take away from this one if it gets an anime. I can already see the thumbnail pictures of people doing the whole face with a bunch of arrows on the thumbnail saying Eraserhead is back, but you know, his appearance in this, I will admit I'm not terribly keen on, but he does have a nice little gag there, I suppose. He and Midnight being brought in to be the official top-ranking superhero endorsement of it. They're making the big personal appearance because all the other big-name heroes just can't be arsed, and All Might can't because he's slowly dying, so that's not a spoiler, I'm just saying that as a joke, but you know, everyone else can't be doing it or doesn't want to do it, so he's being roped into it, and oh, would you look at that? A villain just so happens to be attacking. Oh, it looks like he's not going to make it after all. Harumph. And of course his power doesn't work on the monster guy because I don't really know why, because I suppose because it's a mutation quirk thing. So it doesn't work on mutation quirks, which makes sense, but you know, that's something I'm sure we'll get a little bit more detail later on. Of course, this episode, we see Bee's master plan, even though it seems to be over before it began. This whole episode, it feels as though it feels like a bit of a last throw at the dice, when it doesn't really think it should be with her. Like, I get it, within the structure of this volume, it feels like this is her last great hurrah as a villain, but her actions in this episode feel especially erratic and especially rash. She has the little conversation with her bosses not being happy with her one bit, and with her saying effectively, "Hey, I'm gonna do it my way," and then she just decides to fuck everything up. She's going to use her monster to do monster spooky serial killer things again, and she's going to get away with, or not get away with it, depending about how far her plot armor is going to do with here. You know, it does feel like a very heavy-handed thing of building this up to a big crescendo moment, where it feels like there hasn't been this build up to make it a good big crescendo moment. Like in the last episode, she just looks at the flyer for this thing and just thinks it seems like a big waste of time. Now she's going all in by bringing her biggest, baddest monster to ruin everything. Which, I get it, she's a villain and she's being especially villainous over the past few episodes, but at the same time, it does feel like she's going a bit above and beyond at a point where it doesn't feel like it. But then with that said, I suppose if you were to do this as an anime, you could pad this all out with a few filler episodes. Yes, I said the F word, but for the sake of pacing and building this out, I think it's kind of needed a little bit. Of course, the massive takeaway from this episode, the one that I hope that a lot of people will take away with this in the event it does get an anime, which I will admit at this point I'm not so sure about, is the revelation that Bee is Knuckleduster's daughter. Okay, it hasn't really been confirmed within the story as of yet, but it's fair to say that they are. Like, the way that the episode ends with what Knuckleduster says, it pretty much confirms exactly that is the case. And I will be blunt, I have accidentally looked at the first page of the next episode, and it does explicitly state that that is the case. I will admit that had this not been spoilt for me well in advance of this episode, I probably might still have ended up guessing it, especially with just how this volume itself has been presented. And of course, due to the spoiler thing that we got at the end of the first episode of this particular thing, but this is a whole discussion I'll discuss about in the negatives. But I will admit that I can't really comment on all this too far because they haven't really gone further into the depths of it, how she got to be here, why she's here. We just get the brief shot of Knuckleduster having his bit, striking a cool pose, and that's it. It makes for an arresting statement and a great cliffhanger, but maybe I would have had a little bit more to say on it had it been more of a surprise. Though with all that said, I think it's about time that we get into the negatives. So we'll start off by just shifting gears a little bit, and I'll just say that I'm not all that happy about the inclusion of the pro heroes in this episode. Having present Mike in the episode makes sense, and given how Midnight isn't referring to him by his hero name, it still feels like it's early into his career for him, so he's probably just getting started out, or he's very early on into his career and he's not really all that well known. So it makes sense he would be doing a small gig like this to help build his career up, particularly bearing in mind what we know of how this hero society thing works. Midnight is a little bit more of a push, but I suppose she could do it for the sake of some cross-promotion thing that she also does. Eraserhead feels like his presence here really is just stealing thunder from the main cast. Sure, he's only slowing down the big monster, he's not actually beating them, but it does feel as though it's kind of setting up that he might be the one to beat the big monster, when I think it should be a member of the main cast. Ideally, it should be Popstep. If not, then Knuckleduster. And in last place, Crawler, because I think that that's generally the emotional stakes of it. Popstep has the biggest reason to defeat them because the monster effectively embodies her own anxieties and self-doubts. With Knuckleduster, it's helping to round off all this situation with his daughter. With Crawler, it's to help make him more of a hero and to give him something else to do apart from cracking wise, as pretty much he's only really done over the past few episodes or so. If that is not the case, and it's Eraserhead doing it, then it kind of feels as though this whole mini arc is solved by someone who doesn't really need to solve it. Like he's just been subletted in because no one at this point in the story is really powerful enough to take it on. It's like with the most recent Tekken game where they decided to kill off Heihachi and they realised, oh crap, we haven't got anyone that's strong enough to beat him, let's bring in the guy from Street Fighter to do it, or whatever happened there. And for here and now, I'll just briefly touch upon the stuff with Bee and Knuckleduster. I will probably talk about this in greater detail when I do my big volume review, but I will just say that I'm not entirely happy about how it's been handled. Not with what is seen in this episode itself. I think that the actual drama and intensity of it within this episode is good. It's more how we got here that I have an issue with. When we have it explicitly spoiled to us in this exact volume only a few episodes ago. I know that for some people they're largely fine with that because for them it's more about the journey than the destination, and I can respect that, but for me it feels as though it undermines the drama itself because, let's be blunt, this episode was written without people knowing about it ahead of time, so it does take the whole wind out of the sails, so to speak. You know, I've redone this little section several times over because I keep thinking of some kind of analogy to try and describe how it feels to me. And each time it kind of gets out of hand and doesn't work. So we'll just say that I'm not entirely happy as to how it was handled. Within the episode itself, it's good. It's more of an issue with the volume itself. And yes, I did have it spoiled for me ahead of time, but even still, the fact that they explicitly say, oh, Knuckleduster is Bee's father at some point in this volume, doesn't really work for me, but hell, that is what it is. Now we get into the overview and discuss my thoughts overall for this episode, and I have to say that overall I did enjoy it quite a lot. I feel that it's a bit bottom heavy as far as the drama stuff is concerned, and even then I feel that we're just dipping our toes into far heavier and serious and more interesting stuff, but that we'll no doubt get next week, which is stuff I'm very much looking forward to. I want to see exactly how B got to the position where she is now a villain. I want to see how they got there. I will admit I kind of have a bit of a theory I've had of something somewhere along the line spoiled for me, but I'll want to see exactly how we got there in the meantime. But with that said, I'm still excited to see how we go with it. See, I'm not against the idea of journey, destination stuff in general. It's just that sometimes, you know, when even the people make it are saying, haha, this is the case, it kind of undermines it for me slightly. But still, overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun, some great gags in it. I really want to see what's happening next. When I finish editing this episode, I'm going to start reading the next one, because I really want to. But anyway, with all that said and done, let's get into Comment Corner! It's time for Comment Corner, time to read the comments that you have left me, dear listener. Starting out with Big X1, who says, "This was fun, if directionless." Thank you for the comment. I will admit, I can't exactly say that I agree with that. I don't feel the previous episode was that directionless. It did feel as though it was a little bit lost, but, you know, what we did get there was some fun gags. It just didn't really feel as though it was building quite as much as I really wanted it to, but still, good for what it is. I don't think I agree with your point of view, but hell, you're welcome to your opinion. Next up, we've got Sergeant Gunnery, who I know by a different name, who says, "Thanks for the video, man." Thank you. I hope you liked it. And our next comment comes from Taken Name, who says, "I liked this chapter. Good build-up. Thank you for your comment. And I have to say that I think that the build-up side of that episode was decent for what it was. I just kind of would have liked a little bit more execution, or a little bit more of a some things happening than just build up. But hey, this week we get a lot of stuff happening, and by the looks of things, we're going to even more stuff happening in the next episode. Thank you all for your comments. If you want to leave a comment, you can do so by going down to the comment section down below and leaving me a comment. This is, of course, providing that YouTube hasn't decided to flag this video as being family friendly, but I hope that I've left plenty of curse words in it to make sure that isn't the case. Haha! Anyway, thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!